Good day everyone, praise be Jesus and Mary. In this video, we're going to discuss the lesson about managing and caring for the self. So this lesson covers the following key topics to be discussed in this video.
Learning to be a better student. Learning is a lifetime process which makes human beings superior to animals. People survive by acquiring vast number of new behaviors and countless pieces of new information. Learning continues throughout life as a students. We face new situations and problems every day and learn to deal with them. The change in the learner may happen at the level of knowledge, attitude, or behavior. As a result of learning, learners come to see concepts, idea, and or the world differently. Learning is not something done to students, but rather something students themselves do. It is the direct result of how students interpret and respond to their experiences. Learning is a unique human capability that enables us to continuously grow, adapt, and expand our understanding throughout life. So how the brain works during learning. Learning changes the physical structure of the brain. These structural changes alter the functional organization of the brain. In other words, learning organizes and recognizes the brain. Different parts of the brain may be ready to learn at different times. Each and every time we learn something new, our brain forms new connections and neurons and make existing neural pathways stronger or weaker. So neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to adapt to changes in an individual's environment by forming new neural connections over time. It is sometimes referred to as brain plasticity. For example, when older adults learn to use smartphones or computers, their brains form new neural connections, demonstrating that learning and adaptation can occur at any age. Part of the brain that is responsible for learning. So the brain is an amazing 3-pound organ that controls all function of the body, interprets information from the outside world. The cerebrum is most important in learning, that is responsible for thinking, perceiving, producing, and understanding language. Cerebral cortex is the large outer part of the brain, controls reading, thinking, learning, speech, emotion, and planned muscle movement like walking. The hippocampus is a complex brain structure that has a major role in learning and memory. The amygdala helps to store memories of events and emotions so that an individual may be able to recognize similar events in the future. Factors that affect the learning process. First, attention and effort. Of all the factors that can affect how people learn, motivation might be the most important. Someone who is motivated to learn a particular task or bit of information generally succeeds even if she has work long and hard to do so. For example, is Destin want to learn photography? She's passionate and motivated, spending hours watching tutorials and practicing. Despite initial struggles, her dedication helps her improve rapidly to become a good photographer. Second is attention spans. Attention spans vary among both children and adults. Some people simply prefer to be on the go and have difficulty attending to a lecture or task for any length of time. For example, is Ivan prefers studying at night rather than in the morning. He finds it easier to focus during quieter evening hours, retaining information better. Third is intellectual ability. Intellectual ability also affect learning. For example, some people have an easier time remembering information than others. Some students can readily understand abstract concepts while others need concentrate examples. So for example is Rachel excels in the math, quickly grasping complex concepts. However, she struggles with languages. She uses visual aids, flashcards, and practice exercise to improve her language skills. So the last is prior knowledge. A student could have the highest IQ in the room, but if he has not been exposed to basic information that relates to the lesson, he will have difficulty learning.
Four stages of learning. Abraham Maslow's four stages of learning give us a valuable conceptual framework to understand how we learn anything. It is important to keep these stages in mind when developing learning because different learners will be at different stages. Unconscious incompetence. You are unaware of the skill and your lack of proficiency. For example, imagine a teenager who has never cooked before. They might watch cooking shows or see their parents prepare meals thinking how hard could it be. They're completely unaware of the complexity of cooking and they don't realize how much they don't know about cooking. Conscious incompetence means that you are aware of the skill but not yet proficient. For example, when someone first decides to learn guitar, they become painfully aware of their lack of skills. Their fingers hurt from pressing strings, they can coordinate their strumming hand and fretting hand, and even simple chords sound terrible. They know exactly what they want to play but can't make their hands to do it. The gap between their musical vision and their current ability is frustratingly clear. Conscious competence means that you are able to use the skill but only with effort. At this stage, a language learner can communicate, but it requires significant mental effort. They can construct sentences, but they have to think about grammar rules, verb conjunctions, and word order. They can express themselves, but it's not smooth or natural. Every conversation feels like solving a complex puzzle with pauses as they carefully choose words and construct sentences. Unconscious competence means performing the skills became automatic. Think about touch typing. When you first learn to type, you look at the keyboard, hunt for each letter, and type slowly. Eventually, you can type without looking at the keys, with words flowing effortlessly from your mind to the screen. You can carry on a conversation, think about other things, or even look away while typing accurately and quickly. Ways to be a better student. Love what you're doing. When you choose a course in college, be sure that you really want it so you'll not regret it in the end. Be positive. Always be optimistic at school. You may encounter circumstances that would test your patience and capabilities. When you encounter problems, be courageous to face and solve them. Have self esteem. Do not be shy to stand up and speak in front of a large class. Be confident with yourself. Do not hesitate to share your ideas and strive to be the best version of yourself. Pick good friends in school. Choose your friends at school. Be with a group who can help you be more responsible in your studies. Making friends with the right people is another way to enjoy your study. Do advanced reading. If you are having a hard time with a particular subject, do some reading. Also, read the topic that you think will be discussed in the following days. So, whenever it is discussed, you're already well versed about it. Be punctual and always show up. Your teachers will appreciate it when you arrive early. It shows you are interested to learn from them, and that will also make them be interested to teach you. Visit a library and read. Reading is the best way to educate yourself, and do not just read. Try to digest things you are reading. Spend your vacant time at the library to study and make research. Make a to do list. Be organized, that is the one way to achieve success. List down the activities that you need to do at home or even the other days to come. Your to-do list will help serve as your reminder and help you keep track of your progress. Have self-discipline. Submitting your requirements on time is another form of self-discipline. Being late is not a good attitude of a student. So get rid of all the distractions and do as much as you can to submit your requirements before deadlines. Take good care of your health. Health is wealth, and it's true. So prioritize your health because if you are healthy, you can study well. Going to school requires a lot of energy. Never procrastinate. Everything that we rush fails most of the time. Hence, give your enough time for your assignments and projects. Study a week before your major examination so you could have the chance to get a higher score. Lastly, think of your parents' sacrifices. You are at school because of your parents' efforts. Repay them by giving them good grades at the end of the semesters. Excellent students are good children of their parents. Metacognition, derived from the Greek root word meta, meaning beyond, and the Latin word cognoscere, meaning getting to know, refers to a student's ability to be aware of what they are thinking about and choose a helpful through process. It's about thinking about thinking. It's the ability to reflect on, understand, and control your own learning. So there are different types of metacognition: the metacognitive knowledge and the metacognitive relations. So, what is metacognitive knowledge? This refers to the knowledge of what a student does or does not know about his or her cognitive processes. This is about self awareness of your learning strengths, weaknesses, and cognitive processes. Metacognitive relations. This relates to the various approaches that students can use to control their thoughts and feelings. This involves actively managing and controlling your thought processes and learning strategies.
Some everyday examples of metacognition include: first, awareness that you have difficulty remembering people's name in the social situation, reminding yourself that you should try to remember the name of a person you just met. Second is realizing that you know an answer to a question but simply can't recall it at the moment. Third, realizing that you should review an article you read last week because you have forgotten many of the key points. Fourth is realizing that there are something wrong with your solution to a problem.
Techniques for using metacognition when studying. Ask yourself questions. As what it said earlier, the key for metacognition is asking self reflective questions. Take time to be introspective and honest with yourself about your comprehension. Use writing. Writing can help you organize your thoughts and assess what you know. Write out what you know and what questions you have about the learning objectives for each topic you are learning. Review your exams. Reviewing an exam that you've recently taken is a great time to use metacognition. Look at what you knew and what you missed. Take a time out. When you're learning, it's important to periodically take a time out to make sure you're engaging in metacognitive strategies. Test yourself. Self testing should be an integral part of your study sessions so that have a clear understanding of what you do and don't know. Lastly, figure out how you learn. It is important to figure out what learning strategies work best for you. It will probably vary depending on what type of material you are trying to learn, but it will be helpful to be.
Managing your own learning. Self-regulated learning is a cyclical process wherein the student plans for a task, monitors their performance, and then reflect on the outcome. The cycle then repeats as the student uses the reflection to adjust and prepare for the next task. Cycle of self-regulated learning, showing steps students can take throughout the process. First is plan, set goals, and lay out strategies. Second, use strategies and monitor performance. Third is reflect on performance. So number one, plan, set goals, and lay out strategies. Encouraging students to establish a plan before they start working on a task will help them strategize right from the start. Although students may see this as taking a step backward, it will ultimately help them be more efficient with their time and effort. Number 2. Use strategies and monitor performance. In this phase, students carry out the plan that was outlined in the forethought phase. Ideally, students can proceed with confidence because they have already established a detailed plan of action. Number 3. Reflect on performance. Many students focus solely on the extrinsic outcome of their grade. While grades are important, you can help students reflect on how they think they did on a particular assignment and why. This self-reflection can help them understand why they earned a certain grade and how to improve their performance. Activities like an exam wrapper can solidify this process. So performance reflection involves a student for example, John can carefully analyzing his calculus exam performance by identifying specific strengths and weaknesses, asking introspective questions about his study strategies, understanding the root causes of his mistakes, and developing a targeted improvement plan that transforms the grade from an endpoint into a strategic learning opportunity for future academic growth.
Setting goals for success. So, what is the importance of goals? Goals are the first step towards planning for the future and play a fundamental role in the development of skills in various phases of life, from work to relationships and everything in between. They are the target at which we aim our proverbial arrow. Albert Bandura self-efficacy theory. According to Albert Bandura, self-efficacy is a psychological theory that focuses on how persons' belief in their abilities affects their behavior, motivation, and psychological state. So what is self-efficacy? It refers to one's belief in one's ability to succeed in specific situations or accomplish tasks. So there are two types of self-efficacy, but I forgot to include it in the PPTs. The first one is the low self-efficacy. For example, Sarah wants to learn guitar but believes, I'm not musical. I'll never be able to play an instrument. Despite getting guitar lessons, she assumes failure before trying, gives up quickly when facing challenges, and avoids practicing due to fear of inadequacy. While the second one is high self efficacy. For example, Claudio approaches guitar learning with a different mindset. He said that this will be challenging, but I'm committed to improving. He believes that he can learn through consistent effort, sees challenges as opportunities to grow, practices regularly, and celebrates small improvements. The key differences between the two is Sarah's low self-efficacy becomes self-fulfilling prophecy, while Claudius' high self-efficacy drives persistent learning. In conclusion, belief in one's capabilities significantly impacts actual performance and skill development.
Dura enumerated ways to strengthen self-efficacy. These are master experiences, refers to first-hand or direct experiences that a person acquires. Second is vicarious experiences, emanate from observing people, especially those that one regards as his or her role models. Verbal persuasion refers to motivation coming from influential people such as parents, teachers, friends, coaches, and superiors. 4 is emotional and psychological states refers to the emotional and psychological condition that a person is in. So Carol Dweck's growth mindset theory. Carol Dweck is one of the world-renowned researchers in the area of motivation. She introduced the idea of the mindset, which she defined as the implicit theories that individuals hold regarding the nature of intelligent behavior.
So there are two types of mindset, the fixed mindset and growth mindset. In the fixed mindset, people believe that basic qualities such as intelligence and talents are fixed traits. For example, Joshua believes he's naturally bad at math. He says, I'll never be good at this. He avoids changes and quits easily. While in the growth mindset, people believe that talent and intelligence are developed through learning, effort, training, and practice. For example, Lori struggles with math. She says, I'll work harder and find resources to improve. She seeks help, practices consistently, and sees progress.
Luck's goal setting theory. The goal setting theory states that goal setting is essentially linked to task performance. It states that specific and challenging goals along with appropriate feedback contribute to higher and better task performance. Luck's 1968. In Luck's goal setting theory, a goal or outcome has two sides. The mastery goals where the desire to gain knowledge and skills are reflected, and the performance goals where the desire to look competent in other people's eyes is manifested. The simple act of setting an effective goals give you a better chance of realizing that goal, according to Edwin Locke and Gary Latham. Several principles are crucial to setting effective goals. Effective goal setting principles. First, clarify. A clear, measurable goal is more achievable than one that is poorly defined. Second, challenge. The goal must have a decent level of difficulty in order to motivate you to strive toward the goal. Third, commitment. Sometimes roadblocks are a chance to reassess and set new goals that better align with your situation. Fourth, feedback. Put deliberate effort into meeting this goal. Share your goal with someone else in order to increase your accountability to meet that goal. The last is task complexity. If a goal is especially complex, make sure you give yourself enough time to overcome the learning curve involved in completing the task.
The conditions given by Locke give away to a certain technique called the SMART goals. SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So, what is specific? Set clear and specific goals. Specific goals answers the questions who, what, where, when, and why. It clearly defines what you want to achieve. For example, you're going to study and review all course materials for the upcoming mathematics exam. Measurable. You make sure that your goals are measurable so you can track the progress and know when they are achieved. For example, aim to score 85% or higher on practice quizzes and the final exam. Achievable. You are setting goals that are realistic and achievable with the resources and skills you have. For example, you are going to allocate 2 hours each day for studying and reviewing notes, textbook, and online resources. Relevant. You make sure your goals are relevant to your needs, values, and long term goals. For example, You are going to improve your understanding about the concepts of mathematics and achieve academic success. Time bound. You are going to set a time limit to achieve your goal. Deadlines provide a sense of urgency and help you stay focused and motivated. For example, you study consistently for weeks leading up to the exam to get a higher grades. So this ends our presentation. Hope you learned something new from our discussions. Thank you and God bless.